there, listener, and thanks for joining me for episode 188 of the Ski Podcast. My name is Iain Martin, and this episode is our National Snow Week special. Regular listeners will know I'm normally joined by 2 or 3 guests, but today you're going to hear a lot of different voices, and that's because it's been a very busy time in the world of snow sports in the UK. The inaugural National Snow Week has just finished. We had consumer shows in Birmingham and London bookending the week, and in the middle, in between, the trade networking event LISTEX. Now, I love these events because it's a chance to catch up with a lot of people I know in the industry. Also because I love the buzz of seeing Britain's skiers and snowboarders booking holidays, buying kit, and generally getting excited about the winter. I thought it was a great week, and in this episode you'll hear from world champions, get an insight into the latest trends, and there's also some big news about next year's National Snow Week. First, there's a couple of news items to cover. Regular listeners will know the Ski Podcast was shortlisted as a finalist in the Best Broadcast Programme category at the 2023 Travel Media Awards. Well, on Monday this week, the travel industry put on their best togs, gathered at the Savoy Hotel in London to celebrate the winners. And sadly, I have to inform you that the Ski Podcast lost out to the BBC, who have won this category for the 6th time in the last 8 years. I guess the fact that 6 people went up to collect their awards says you need to know about the contrast in scale between the Ski Podcast and the BBC. So it was a great honour simply to be selected as a finalist. By the way, long-term listeners will be delighted to know that Sam Haddad, who featured in our snowboard special episode, won the award for Best Sustainability Feature. So well done, Sam. Brilliant work. And I'll put a link to that article in the show notes. Secondly, don't forget that you can save money when you book your ski hire this winter by using the code SKIPODCAST at intersportrent.com. Regular listeners will know I always use Intersport ski hire when I'm in the Alps. It saves me having to carry my skis around with me, which is a bonus as I normally travel by train. But even if I was flying, I would still hire because ski carriage costs so much these days. So if you want to support the Ski Podcast, then please remember to book your ski hire with Intersport and use the code SKIPODCAST at the checkout. It will save you money. It's an extra 6% for French resorts and then a guaranteed variable discount for Austria and Switzerland. And if you do, it will help to keep the podcast going. Right, that's enough from me. Let's have a listen to some of the people I spoke to in the last week. Pretty much all of them are featured on the podcast at some point, so check the show notes if you'd like to hear more from them. Let's start with Tim Warwood, who told me about his Question of Snow quiz that he was holding at the ski shows.
One of the things I love about these shows is you get to meet people in real life. I'm here with Tim Warwood, just now interviewed, I don't know, a few months ago. Hi, Tim.
IRL, as the kids say.
IRL, exactly.
How are you doing, all right?
Yeah, really good. It's brilliant to be here. Now, there's so many things going on at the show, but I know a little bit later on today you're doing a Question of Snow.
Yes.
So, Emlyn Hughes and...
Absolutely. What was the original? Sue Barker took on... David Vine did the original, didn't he? And then Sue Barker...
There you go. So you're stepping into big shoes there.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to call it a question for dorks. So it kind of sounds a bit more like a question of sport, but they wouldn't allow me to call it that. So
okay, who's on your panel?
So a Question of Snow is team captains Chemmy and Ed.
Right.
With Chemmy, Jenny and Mia Brookes.
Yeah.
And then Ed, Billy and Scott Penman.
Right.
So we've got the presenters of Ski Sunday as team captains. We've got 2 bronze medalists and then 2 snowboarders bringing up the rear. It's quite simply boys versus girls. Who is best?
Okay, well, I wouldn't even dare to try and come up with an answer.
The girls are going to win.
Okay.
You've got Ed that thinks he's really clever, but he's not. Then you've got Chemmy that will just steamroller everybody. You've got Mia, who will get all the technical things, and Scott, well, I don't know what Scott's going to do, but it's going to be fun.
Well, thanks to Mia, who I interviewed here last year, I now know, this is your specialist area, what a cab 1440 is.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I have learned something from all of this.
Amazing.
Well, maybe that'll crop up.
Mate, what is going to crop... Well, I can't tell you what's going to crop up.
Okay.
But no, it should be good fun. And as ever with all of my stuff I do, it's not very serious. It's just for fun. And hopefully, cool. here's the little tip. Hopefully nobody gets their head cut off with a drone.
Yeah, let's hope for that. That's brilliant, Tim. Thanks very much.
Cheers, mate.
Tim mentioned Britain's newly crowned world champion Mia Brookes in our chat. I caught up with her shortly after and she revealed a secret about her gold medal.
Right, here with Mia Brookes. at the National Snow Show in Birmingham. And firstly, congratulations, not on becoming a world champion, because lots of people managed to do that, and passing your GCSEs as well. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that nobody has done their GCSEs and become world champion in the same year, because I think I'm right in saying you're the youngest ever world champion, right?
I think so, yeah. It's been a pretty mental season, and looking forward to what this season brings. Yeah, for sure. Now, you did say, I've just seen you interviewed by Scott and Chemmy on the stage there, and there was a revelation about your medal from the World Championships. Yeah. I wonder if you want to share that one. Yeah, so as I got to the airport to meet my mum and dad, I had it in my pocket, and Dave Ryden came out of nowhere, and he was like, "Oh, I just seen you won World Champs," and I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You got the medal?" I was like, "Yeah, it's in my pocket actually," and I pulled it out, and the back snapped off it. And I just stood there like, oh God, this is embarrassing. And he was just like, oh, it's all right. It is what it is. It's still set you on more champs, and that was that. So it's fixed now. But super glued it back together, yeah. Good old super glue. And now it's safely framed somewhere, I should think. And you've just come back from SAS Fair yourself, where you've been training. How's that camp gone? Yeah, really good. It was kind of busy. Obviously, the ski racing camp's on as well, but. It was good just to get the pre-season legs back in, because I have a first World Cup next week. Yeah, and, that's in Kerr, right? Kerr, I've learned how to say that one now. I think everyone's slowly getting there. Yeah, that's one of those urban big airs where they build like a massive jump in the middle of the town, right? Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I think last year I definitely had a different perspective on it. I was kind of nervous being my first World Cup last year. Yeah, it was your first ever World Cup event, right? Yeah, and it didn't go too well. I missed out by finals by one place. So this year, even if I just make it to finals, I'll be stoked, but I'm going to look for the win. Cool, and so obviously last season was amazing, became world champion, and then it finished off with you going out to the X Games, which happened at pretty short notice, right? Yeah, well, I actually found out about X Games today, but last year, obviously. Okay. And it was kept under wraps for about 3 months, I think it was, and got announced in December. And I think I'm going to go again this year and definitely going to win. Yeah, well, you were saying just now that is your ambition to win at X Games. You've won a world championship. Is that definitely big air, or is that slopestyle, or could that be both? I think it's going to be looking like it's both this season. Yeah. Really hoping so. Yeah, cool. And then, you were too young to be able to go to the Olympics in Beijing, even though, you probably would have been of a standard where you could have done well. Yeah. So therefore, that makes it Turin is the next time round, Turin? Yeah, Milan. I think it's Milan Cortina, maybe. Okay, Milan Cortina, thank you. I'm looking forward to that. I think it should be a good experience. Obviously, I'm setting my sights on the Olympics, but there's a lot in between all that I want to achieve. Yeah, for sure. Well, had an amazing season last year for your debut, and congratulations on it all, and have a great winter this year as well. Thank you. So, from one world champion to another, next I spoke to Charlotte Banks, who won the mixed team Snowboard Cross in Georgia with teammate Huw Nightingale. Right, I'm here with Charlotte Banks, Snowboard Cross world champion in the mixed team event this year, 2023. Now, I'm really interested in that. I know you've won many medals and across the years, but how does the strategy work for that mixed team event?
I mean, we don't have the choice of who goes first or second, so in that way there's no strategy. The guys go first, and their aim is for sure to ride as fast as possible, but it's to stay on their feet and be as close as possible, if not in front of the three other riders. And then that's how I see it. And then for us, the girls, it's really just go out there blazing and just get down to the bottom first. And
just to clarify then, your mixed team partner was Huw Nightingale, right?
Yep.
So had you done a lot of practice beforehand, before this event?
No, the World Championships was our second event together. We ride in training against each other. We ride, we're on the same tracks all year round, but we'd never actually, our first event as a mixed team was the Olympics the year before. Yep. And then, the World Championships was our second event.
Gudari, I want to say, Georgia, yeah?
Bakurani
in Georgia, is that right? I've got the country right, at least. And so you'd work your way up, you got to the final, Huw goes down first, you're in the start gate waiting, and you're not released until he's crossed at the bottom. That's how it works, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
So do you have any idea of how well he's doing?
So we've got a board with the time splits, and I had a little view of the track, but not much. But yeah, I mean, he was up against the world champion from the day before, and I was seeing the time split, and he was in front, and I was impressed. Is the answer. In my gate, I was really impressed, and yeah, down to the bottom, last time split at the finish line, he's 700ths behind. So for me, we're all starting together, except the Americans that crashed out, and therefore they were kind of out of it. So I already knew that if I didn't completely mess up, we had a medal.
Yep.
But at that point, I didn't think of that. I was like, I can't mess this up. He's done the hardest job. Now I need to go and win this for the whole team.
And in terms of that final leg then, I mean, that's just a fractional amount. Were you tucked in just behind the other two, or did you get a really good start and get ahead?
I got a pretty decent start, well, very decent start for my standards. And I was in the battle, I think, with Chloe, so the French girl, from the first turn, and I think I went inside first turn. Yeah, from halfway down, I was already in front, and I was just like, okay, now I just need to keep my speed. I had a bit of challenges on the bottom of the track as well, losing speed, so I was just like, I just need to keep pushing, and I don't want them to come back on me now. I can't let down everybody. The whole team that's behind us as well.
Oh, well, it was an incredibly successful World Championships from a park and pipe point of view. But, it sounds like a dumb question because everyone asked it, but how did it feel when you crossed the line? You picked up gold there. Yeah,
I mean, it was completely unexpected as well. For sure, I think the day before I was going for gold and came out in the preheats. So it was just tried to give... I mean, we were fortunate enough, I think, I saw it like that, to have a second event, which, it's different, and I didn't want redemption from the day before. I just wanted to move forwards and keep pushing, and I'm really happy that we got that second chance to be able to go for gold and bring it back for the whole team, the coaches, the wax tech, everybody behind us that's working super hard, and then the whole dubious snow sport, and we could feel that everybody was just 100% behind us to perform.
And it was, a very successful World Championships, because just on the stage behind us at the moment, we've got Mia Brookes, who picked up a World Champion title as well, so it's not even your first, world medal, but I'm sure you still, celebrated it wildly as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. We were really happy, and it was just relief as well, and to not leave Bakuani without anything, and so that was really nice, and then also helped move on to the last few World Cups with hope, and just to go and finish the season strong.
Well, that's brilliant, Charlotte. Thanks very much, and congratulations again to Huw as well. Pass it on to him when you see him.
Thank you very much.
As well as elite athletes, the shows were full of the latest kit. I caught up with Colin Martin from Solutions for Feet to see what his thoughts were on the new BOA Fit System for ski boots. And if you're interested in finding out more about the BOA system, I had a long chat with our equipment expert, Al Morgan, in episode 187, and I'll drop a link into the show notes.
So I'm here with Colin Martin. Regular listeners will know him from our Ski Boots special, which I told him earlier is our most listened to episode ever. So congratulations on that, Colin.
Thanks very much, Iain. I don't actually know how we managed it. People obviously like listening to tech talk.
Well, and that is the reason for talking to you now. I mean, I know you've been very busy on the stand today. Possibly people have drifted off to watch the rugby now. But one thing I was particularly interested in talking to you about was that new BOA Fit System for ski boots. I wondered if you could tell me what you think about that. Is it a game changer?
Okay, so BOA is something we were really sceptical about when we learned about it happening. Then we tested the product, and everything is actually, it's okay. 4 brands have got behind this, so that's a massive investment from those brands. There's millions of dollars, millions of euros investment in mold changes, in marketing the product. BOA are behind this 100%. They offer free replacement part if something should break. It's pretty bomb-proof. We have tried to break them. We've been smacking boots off tables, hitting them with hammers. It takes a lot to actually damage this BOA.
So that was a concern, maybe, that it might not be as robust?
Absolutely, it was a concern. It's a big lump sticking off the side of your boot.
Yeah.
People are still, it will never work. It's been tried on other stuff. This is a new BOA. This is H+1, hard +1. It's a 4-to-1 gear ratio. It's a 1.7mm steel wire rope with 9 strands. You can hang a 250 kilogram gondola carriage from it. It's going to be tough to break.
Okay, but it's very strong then. But is it going to suit everybody? Is it right for all feet?
No, just like any ski boot, it's only right if the boot fits you. So most of the manufacturers, so Fisher, K2 and Salomon have chosen to put this on their 100mm, their medium volume last. In alpine boots, K2 are doing some crossover boots as well. Atomic have gone to their 98mm last on their crossover hybrid boot, the Hawks Ultra XTD. So if the boot fits you well in the 4-clip conversion or 4-clip version, the BOA version will fit your foot better as it wraps.
Okay, and they've chosen to pick those last specifically for any specific reason?
The 100mm boot, the medium volume last, that's their bread and butter. That is the boot that writes the paychecks. So it's the biggest volume selling boots out there. That's where they've chosen to go first.
And is that because there's an extra cost involved? Is that what they're thinking about?
Well, the cost involved is a new mould because BOA locates differently from where the buckles would locate on the traditional boot. So you need a new mould. You have to. So the boot manufacturers have had to start a new project essentially with BOA to get that integrated into their boot.
And is there a cost because of like the licensing with BOA as well?
There is an uplift in cost, which is basically why there is not a change in cost between a 4-buckle and a BOA boot. It extrapolates out pretty neatly. It's not as big as people might think, but there is a cost involved, obviously.
Okay, and do you think then, will it depend on what uptake is like this season as to whether they extend that, further across their ranges?
Well, this is the first season of this. We've been running the Salomon version on an early release since January. We sold through on that pretty much every size we had on time left the building. So this is year 1. Year 2, we know there is more boots coming from these manufacturers, and we know there are more manufacturers joining the BOA party in 25-26.
Right, okay. Okay, well, I mean, it is interesting. That Salomon one, now you explain why I went out to Zermatt in the summer, and I had a pair of Salomon boots that had the BOA fitting on it, and I wondered, because they're not meant to be released until just now, how I managed to do that. You've explained that one for me now.
So both Salomon and K2 did a limited product early release. There was a few pairs of Fisher out there, a few pairs of Atomic as well, but in the actual production release, Salomon and K2.
Yeah, well, purely anecdotally from my point of view, I found it very comfortable around my foot. I know everybody's foot is different, but it was a higher boot. But it'd be really interesting to see what the consumer thinks, how many items are sold, and whether it does become broader. Yeah,
certainly so far, consumers are loving it in the store. We occasionally get husband and wife in, and if one's got a BOA boot and the other one hasn't, it's all, why haven't I got that? Yeah, because it doesn't fit you. But it's been really positive so far.
Cool, that's really brilliant, Colin. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Next up is BBC Ski Sunday presenter Ed Leigh. I interviewed Ed back in February of this year, but this week I was fascinated to hear him compare the British snow sports industry to a bumblebee.
I'm here at LISTEX with Ed Leigh. We've just seen a really interesting presentation about planks where you're doing the Q&A. But there was an analogy that you gave there that I just loved, and I'd never heard it before. I wondered if you wanted to tell us.
There's a guy called Eddie Spearing, one of the godfathers of British snowboarding, used to talk about this, the idea that the British snow industry is like a bumblebee. You look at it and it really doesn't look like it should fly, but somehow it does. And his explanation was that it works because we have such inclement weather for the winter. You need to buy a winter jacket, but if you can buy one that works for the snow as well, then the snow industry is going to do well, and that's what underpins the snow industry.
So it looks impossible, but it works.
On the surface. If you talk to anyone who runs a ski apparel brand in France, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, they'd say, I can't really sell it in the UK. But the reality is you get here, especially, it worked, the analogy in the 90s for snowboarding worked perfectly, because at that time you had PR girls going into the office in London in snowboard boots. Like, it was so fashionable, everyone wanted a part of it. So if you could buy a snowboard jacket and it was your winter jacket, you were living the dream. So
that's cool. Can I ask you something else? Tord, Tord, you said earlier about he thought maybe the rise in skateboarding would lead to an increase in snowboarders. Do you think that that's possible or likely?
I don't think, weirdly, despite the physical similarities in the action, culturally they're very different. Skateboarding is something very parochial. You explore your city, your urban environment in a minute detail, very close to home. You're looking for spots, and there's a reason why skateboarders why snowboarders are commentating on a lot of skate events.
Yeah.
Snowboarders tend to be much more extrovert. Well, skiers and snowboarders, they're going out. They're much more extrovert. They're more curious. They're looking for experiences further afield.
Yeah.
Whereas skateboarders tend to be, not exclusively, but a little more introverted, a little more parochial.
You don't think there'd be a crossover? Because I think the theory was, because during COVID, a lot of people had taken up skateboarding and maybe not done it before, that naturally there's a crossover between, board sports, let's say. I know that you have to be careful talking about those things.
But there's also I do both, and there's definitely a feeling within skateboarding that snowboarding is just skateboarding with bindings. It's easier.
Right.
Obviously it's not, it's a lot faster, but I think in places where you have, there are very few financial barriers to getting into skateboarding.
Yeah.
It's 100, 150 pounds.
Yeah.
The investment, when you don't really know where you're going or what you're doing, it's much more with snow.
I mean, I love being at the Birmingham show last weekend and seeing Billy Morgan, skateboarding in the half pipe. Then the year before, Mia Brookes was doing loads of it. I don't know if she was there this time.
She was there again this year.
They just love hanging out in there, don't they?
Yeah. It's that's the thing. It's the physical act is very similar, but
cool. That's brilliant, Ed. Thanks.
At the London show, I spoke to Tord Nilson from the Iconic agency about the drop in snowboard sales and whether snowboarding might still see a comeback.
Right, here at the London show with Tord Nilson from the Iconic agency, and I was listening to a talk that you were in at LISTEX early this week, and you were talking about trends in equipment sales, and really interesting what you had to say about snowboards.
Yeah, so looking back about 20 years, so I guess for context, every year as the SIGB, the Snow Sports Industries of Great Britain, which is the trade kind of body for the snow sports industries in the UK, we do a trade survey to understand how the market looks each year in terms of products sold and what is being sold generally. With that, 20 years ago, we sold a lot of snowboards.
Yep.
Coming back now, we're selling about 10% of that number. So you can see a real decline in snowboard interest.
And is that because people aren't replacing them as much, or are there simply fewer snowboarders now than there were before?
So there's a multiple of reasons. One is that snowboard technology hasn't moved forward as much as ski technology or ski boot technology, for example. The other one is it is a fashion rather than anything else, which we've realised. So it does go in waves. And then we will see an uptick now because of the interest in skateboard. So skateboard really died off in the last 15 years-ish.
Yeah.
And that's coming back up now with a surge of Skateboard GB doing great stuff at the Olympics. People like Sky Brown doing well, so people being interested in it. And then this is the winter version of skateboarding.
Right, and you think that, because I was chatting to Ed Leigh the other day, he seemed less convinced that the interest in skateboarding will lead to snowboarding being a bit too different. It's very hard to know. I mean, in COVID, the number of people skateboarding went up a lot, right?
Hugely. It went up hugely, that and inline skating as well.
Yeah.
People just finding stuff to do, right? We were all kind of trying to find things to do in COVID times. But I do think it will lead to more sales. We already know that it is on the slow increase.
Do you think with snowboarding, another factor is that in that 20-year period you're talking about, we've seen skis develop so much. So in terms of it always used to be that it was much easier to get into the off-piste and the powder on a snowboard than it was on skis, and then as they've got wider and fatter, the skiing side of things has kind of become more fun than it used to be.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. I mean, I work for a ski brand, Vocal. We definitely have taken technologies from the snowboard world, fatter skis, softer skis, but also the boots have got uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We all joke about ski boots being uncomfortable, but go back 20 years, they were really uncomfortable. Whereas snowboard boots have always been really comfortable, feel a bit like a hiking boot. I think all of those increases. And the other thing is also that a lot of the people who started snowboarding when they were young, they then get children. It is a lot easier to do to teach kids with skis rather than with a snowboard.
Yeah, cool. That's brilliant, Tord. Thanks so much. Really interesting stuff.
Thinking about trends, Guy Fowles from Wasteland Travel had some really interesting points to make about the continual upgrade of accommodation in the Alps.
Right, I'm here at LISTEX with Guy Fowles from Wasteland Travel, and I was really interested in a comment that you made earlier, talking about the way accommodation is changing in ski resorts. And you see so many properties being upgraded, but that's not always for the best, or certainly not from your point of view, right?
No, so our market, Iain, is very much that student and young professional end of the snow sports market, and they are obviously looking for affordable options, which, when you've got 2 and 3 star accommodation changing to 4 star, it's pricing them out of the market.
So that's in some resorts. So does that mean that you're changing resorts or looking at different places for taking your trips?
Yeah, so for the coming season, what we've done is do a recce over the summer, looking at lesser well-known resorts that perhaps have a lower price point and actually more affordable options. And the resorts themselves are actually very keen on attracting us and bringing more customers.
I'm sure they are. And there's something else you said that I found really interesting is, on your trips, so might be specifically the university trips, there's a very high proportion of beginners on those trips?
Yeah, so roughly 30-35% of our customers are beginners. So high uptake.
Yeah, so it's really important because you're bringing people into the market, and with schools being limited, there aren't so many options like this now.
Absolutely, yeah. And what we do to try and appeal to that market is we offer things such as staggered payments, so that actually people can work towards their ski holiday and afford it. So
cool.
Again, just trying to bring more people in.
That's great.
So some interesting challenges there. Sometimes better isn't always better. More bullish about business was Iain Brown from the Snow Centre in Hemel, Hempstead.
It's so great to be at the shows, actually meet people and catch up again. I'm here with Iain Brown from the Snow Centre. How are you going, Iain?
Yeah, really good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, well, I've had you on the podcast a few times before, and I recall just after I had you on the podcast a while ago, you released the news that you were buying acquiring Chill Factory in Manchester as well, and that was back in March 2021. That was quite a bold move, post lockdown. How's it gone over the last couple of years?
Oh, really pleased with how it's gone. Like you say, it was in lockdown. Nobody quite knew what was probably going to happen when everything reopened, but really good first summer after opening. Then you're thinking, is that pent-up demand? Is that due to closure? But the momentum's continued to build, and we had a great 22. We've had a great year this year, particularly the summer, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And bookings are looking really good for this winter season as well.
Okay, so, would you share how much numbers went up by in the two venues?
I mean, double-digit growth across both sides each year.
Okay.
It's quite significant. We're not just talking a little bit. We're talking 10-15% growth year on year.
Okay, and obviously your energy costs are pretty high. Has that affected things at all?
Yeah, we had a tough 12 months coming out of contract. To put it into context, it was sort of 5 times the unit price to what we had been paying. We're in a much better place now. The sort of peak was probably 6-7 months ago, so it's much lower now. We're still probably paying twice what it was back in the day, and it's probably about the kind of level it's going to stay at going forward, I would say.
Right, okay. No optimism that might come back down to previous levels?
I'd love to think so, but let's see what happens. But on the plus side, footfall and revenue has been really, really strong. So, in terms of the future, it's looking really positive.
Well, that's great. I mean, I do think that having people coming in and getting the chance to ski in the UK before they go out to the mountains, and for me that's key. They do it before, not instead of, is really important. So keep up the good work, Iain. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also positive about this winter with James Gambrill from the Ski Club of Great Britain. I spoke to him about the return of ski club reps to France.
Right, I'm here with James Gambrill, General Manager of the Ski Club of Great Britain. We're at LISTEX today between the two ski shows. And one of the reasons I wanted to have a chat is because there's some pretty big news about ski club reps coming back to France, right?
That's right, Iain. Ski Club reps will be back in France this year in 5 resorts. So we've got reps back in Tignes, in Val Thorens, in Mirabel, in Flaine and in Les Arcs. And so they join our 20-plus Swiss, Austrian, North American, Spanish and Andorran resorts.
And, to me, that's really interesting because I'm guessing it was maybe 20 years ago now or something when, let's say, relations weren't quite as good as they were now. And I think even maybe like a ski club rep possibly got arrested on the slopes.
Yeah, that's right. So, we've had reps in France for years. I was the rep in Meribel back in the 1990s, had a fantastic season. But yes, a lot of people will remember back sort of 2016 around then, there was a lot of issues around tour operators with guides. And then the ski club rep was effectively a guide. So they wore a jacket with branding and they took members skiing. And of course, it's become clear, really, particularly in France, but throughout Europe, that to organise activities on snow as a paid professional, you have to have the right qualifications. Now, our reps are volunteers, so our view back then was always our reps are volunteers, and therefore they're going skiing out with members. But the perception was because they were wearing a branded jacket, they were very much leading from the front that they were ski guides and not just reps. So the role of the rep has changed completely. I now see them as a club concierge, so they're there to help members meet each other. They help there for members to find each other to go skiing with. They'll organise social activities, they'll help members find restaurants, they'll help advise them on maybe where to go and get their boots sorted in resort if they need the help with that. And they will go out skiing with members, but as a member of the group, as another member of the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think that seems like such a long time ago now. I'm sure longer-term listeners will remember, the days when, ski guides, came, were provided by every tour operator. My first ever season was with Bladen Lines, where I was a ski guide, and for all of my seasons, I ended up skiing, with the clients. But equally, I understand, how ultimately, let's say, legislation, and you might call it health and safety, kind of caught up with that. But that's great news that the reps are back in France. Did it take a lot of negotiation to make that happen?
I would say it took a lot of conversation. I think really it was about, explaining the fact that the role of the rep has changed. As you've said, we completely understand that it's ski professionals that are guiding on the mountain. We work with instructors and mountain guides all over the world, including France. We have the instructor-led guiding service that we run with New Generation Ski School. And very often our reps are organising days out with mountain guides and instructors. I used to do the same. So really, it was more about those conversations to make sure that they understood what the role of the rep was.
And the New Gen partnership still exists in other resorts in France?
Yeah, no, it does. So we're still running that because that is, as we call it at the moment, instructor-led guiding. We will be refreshing that. It's more of an experience, really, but it's an ability for members to go out skiing with an instructor. It's not a kind of formal lesson. It's more a kind of experience day. So, often going off-piste, they will work on technique, but it's more about getting that experience.
And for the resorts, the 5 resorts where you have got reps there, they will ski with members of the club, but as members, will they be wearing uniform?
No, they won't. So they're just any other member of the club. I think if everybody who was a member of the club was wearing a branded ski club jacket, that's probably fine because then they're all members of a club. But that's not going to happen. And so the rep is just another member of the club. We're working closely as well in resorts with people like the ESF, so to do some kind of introductory days, particularly places like the Three Valleys, where obviously a lot of the reason that members want to go out skiing with somebody is they want to find their way around.
Yeah, excellent. Cool. Well, that's really good. And, it's another, I think, since you've come in, maybe 3 years ago.
2.5.
3 years ago, another one of the developments that you've added. So, well done and thanks very much, James.
Thank you very much, Iain.
There was more good news from Dan Keeley from the charity Snowcamp.
I'm here with Dan Keeley from the charity Snowcamp. Hi Dan, how are you going?
Hey Iain, good to be here.
Yeah, you're possibly lagging a bit because I know on Thursday night you were out in London on a very big night. Do you want to tell us what happened then?
Yeah. It's been a big couple of days. We're here at the Snow Show now, but Thursday evening we had our 20th anniversary ball for Snowcamp, and we raised a staggering £100,000 on the night. It was pretty special to celebrate 2 decades of impact.
That is very, very impressive and great support. Who were everyone, apart from supporting the charity, who were they there to see?
Yeah, well, 280 guests in the room. We had Chemmy and Graham, obviously, wonderful patrons, as our hosts. They were incredible. And then Derek Redmond, fantastic guest speaker. Obviously, his story of adversity and perseverance, overcoming challenges in your life. It was amazing, really resonated with the young people. And then the start of the show, as you all know very well, is always the young people. 20 young people on stage, sharing their stories from the heart. And of course, feeding into why Dan Charlish started the charity 20 years ago. Here we are, looking forward to the next 20 years.
And just, remind the listener who may not have heard of it what Snowcamp does then.
So Snowcamp turns young lives around with the power of snow sports. We break down barriers and broaden horizons with some of the UK's most underprivileged, typically inner city young people. We support around 1,000 young people every year now in all over the UK. And the charity just goes from strength to strength. We've got an amazing staff team. The programme managers are amazing who actually do the work with the young people. But certainly for us, even on the development side, we've got so many partners across the industry, so many supporters, trusts, foundations that have supported us for the whole journey. And as we say, it's looking forward now to the next 20 years of impact.
Well, that's fantastic, Dan. On a sort of personal note, regular listeners will know I like to do a bit of running, and I have mentioned that you ran earlier this year. It wasn't it? From London to Rome. Have you recovered from that? And what's next on your list?
Yeah, well, it was straight after the Snowcamp 3 Valley Rally as well. So it's a really, really relentless first half of the year. But yes, we did it. You turned out to run with me from the London Eye to Rome. Not all the way, day one, of course. And what's the question? So, what's coming next? So, obviously, this winter's going to be mega for the charity. But who knows? I've got a couple of ideas in mind for the future. I tend to do these things in 5-year cycles. So have a word with me in 2028.
That's brilliant, Dan. Thanks very much.
It was a real pleasure to discover that Graham and Fiona from Ski Abruzzo had a stand at the show. Regular listeners will remember I visited Abruzzo in February of this year, and I'll put a link to that report in the show notes.
Right, I'm here with Graham Spratley from Ski Abruzzo. So nice to see you, because the last time I saw you was when I was in Abruzzo in Italy myself in February. So welcome to England. I don't know how you say that in Italian.
Benvenuto in Inghilterra.
Yeah, that's the one. That's exactly what I was thinking of. And I see that you've got a stand here at the show, which is really interesting. Is that the first time you've ever had a stand for Abruzzo?
Yes, it is, Iain. We decided to take the plunge after 3 somewhat disappointing winters, 2 because of COVID and 1 because of a deluge of rain last year, not only in Abruzzo but in other resorts, which delayed the start of the season.
Well, fortunately it didn't affect me, because I came out there in February half term and the snow, was excellent. Like 100 kilometres a piece. People who've listened to my episode about it before will know all of that. But, during that COVID, you mentioned that. You got some support from the region which has helped you to exhibit here?
Well, it wasn't from the region, it was from our local council in England.
Right.
It's called the Assisted Recovery Grant.
Ah.
And we hadn't spent it because of the previous poor seasons.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, everything looks set to be normal for next winter. So we decided to invest in both this ski show in Birmingham and also in London at Excel.
Cool. That's really good. Well, I can speak from my own personal experience of having taken my family at February half term that it's really good value. But I saw a flyer on the stand there. Fiona's got it there. I'm trying to remember how much it was. Or was it 1,900 for a family of 4?
Yeah, 1,939 euros, because we have to use that. We don't sell flights. For a family of 4, 2 adults, 2 children under 12, half board with return airport transfers.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it can be beaten. I have skied in the Pyrenees at February half term as well, which is also good value. But there you go. I personally recommend it, and I'm going to be doing a presentation tomorrow, Ski Podcast Live, Off the Beaten Track. I'll be talking about Rocca Arazzo. So hopefully between us, we'll end up with more people in the Italian Apennines and in Abruzzo for next winter.
Thank you, Iain, but I must stress we don't want too many.
As well as catching up with people I've interviewed before, the show's always great for the chance to meet people for the first time. I spoke to Iain from OOSC Clothing at his stand in Birmingham.
Right, I'm here with Aaron McLaughlin, founder of OOSC. First question has got to be, what does OOSC stand for?
So OOSC is meant to be the sound of a fist pump in ski gloves.
Okay, yeah, I could just about visualise that. And we're standing by your stand right now, which is very busy. lot of fluorescent onesies going off the shelves. I can't claim that I would wear one myself, but obviously they're increasingly popular.
Yeah, I think we're bringing it back. We've got a key demographic of 25 to 35 year olds, and we've actually sold to a couple of 75 year olds as well.
That is brilliant. Obviously, remembering the old days of, I guess, skiing in the 80s or something like that.
The days.
Yeah, we mentioned you in the last podcast, actually, because we're doing a little section about ski rental. And I noticed that, if you go to websites like Her or John Lewis, you can rent some of your range. Is that, you see that becoming, increasingly part of the business?
I think so. As the ski industry moves more towards sustainability, people are more conscious about reducing their carbon footprint. Obviously, the textile industry has got quite a bad, it's not perceived particularly well. So if we can do anything we can to help with that, then rental or repair, anything we can do to help it, we're doing.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned to me before that you do have repair services offered for anyone who buys the goods, right?
Yeah, we offer repair, repurpose, and we also give repair patches with all of our outerwear, just so people can make quick repairs at home.
Yeah, well, I think that's really important. I think maybe it was Patagonia or something like that. I'm talking about ownership is more important than actual commercialisation, let's say. So that's great. Keep up the good work, and great to see you really busy here.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
It was interesting to hear Aaron's views on clothing rental and the increased interest in sustainability. Conversations about sustainability were a huge part of National Snow Week. I led a panel about travelling by train to ski resorts at both shows. It was really encouraging to see that both of those were really well attended. At Birmingham, it was literally standing room only. Then at LISTEX, I moderated a panel specifically about sustainability, and we could have filled twice the time we had available to us. There were so many questions from the room. But as regular listeners know, Protect Our Winters play a big part in raising awareness and knowledge, and that is really starting to filter through in behaviour change. So let's have a listen to some of those conversations about sustainability, starting with BBC Ski Sunday presenter Chemmy Alcott.
Great, I'm here with Chemmy Alcott. Just had a really interesting session there, talking about
Very
climate change, with Protect Our Winters, and I know you're an ambassador for them. And we were chatting earlier on this week, and you were telling me that it's, affecting the sort of decisions that you're making in some of the different organisations you're involved with.
Yeah, I'm trying to take personal responsibility and not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And I've been very lucky in my career to host some heli ski trips, and it was something that was on the agenda again for 2025. But I actually got in touch with the company saying, look, morally and ethically, I can't do this. I don't want to do this because I don't want to promote this message to people. But why don't we still work together and run a ski touring trip?
Yeah,
and that's a massive tangent for them. But they came back saying, yes, we can do this. And so I just think it's not about changing people's experiences in the mountains, but it's about kind of detouring them on how they think they'll get there. It's like a sat-nav with a roadblock. You're still going to get to that destination. You're still going to get those amazing powder turns on those epic steeps, but you're going to earn them.
Cool, I like that. And part of that is because you've been doing the carbon literacy courses with POW as well, haven't you? You've completed that now,
so that was something that has given me the confidence to talk about these things. I've been passionate about them for a long time, but I didn't think I had a right to talk about it because I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Protect Our Winters. It's being purposeful over perfection. Like, we just got to start making the change. And I am not perfect. I'm travelling a lot all the time. I don't want people to put me in a pedal stall. I just want to give people alternative ideas. And I started with that when I started renting my stuff from EcoSki. That was my first avenue into it, where I realised that I didn't have to sacrifice how fashionable I looked, and actually I was making the right decision. And last winter that was driving my EV around. This winter I'm taking that snow train on the 16th of December, and we're going to try and get it into Ski Sunday to show people that if we get bums on seats, the price will go down, and the length of that.
Oh, I love what you're saying there, Chemmy. It's brilliant.
I know. Well, you're the reason this is back, and I know you're someone who's really pitched this over the years, and I want to show us a success because the schedule is limited for this winter.
Yeah.
But if we make that longer, because I really believe our industry from Britain in March, they go to that region of France. That's when we need the snow train to run.
It's exactly the same message that I've been saying in the sessions about train travel. I've just been saying to people in the audience, if you're interested and you're thinking about it, do it, because then Eurostar will increase the rotations and increase the number of seats as well, because it's 250 this winter and it was 750, so it'll help. That's brilliant, Chemmy. Thanks very much.
Thank you, and thanks for the snow train petition. I was part of it with you back in the day, so I'm excited to be part of it in the future.
Cool, that's great.
I love talking with Chemmy. She has such unbelievable amounts of energy. Have a look in the show notes to listen back to our behind the scenes chat about Ski Sunday earlier this year. Next up, I spoke to Richard Sinclair from SNO Holidays about the increasing demand for ski holidays by train.
Great. So we're here at LISTEX. Been a very interesting day. Lots of presentations been given by different people. And I just managed to find a quiet corner to have a little chat with Richard, who is MD at SNO Holidays. Hi, Richard. Are you all right?
Hi, Iain. Good, thanks. Yes. Yeah, good.
I thought that was really interesting with the ski club, because within their presentation, they said they showed that around 12% of people plan to travel by train this winter, which is quite exciting. And you were telling me that fits in with some of the observations that you've seen within the calls that you're getting.
It does. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've, I guess, tried to grow ski train, snow train, if you like, in previous years, and it's definitely gained traction. But this year, it feels like an idea whose time has come. I think there's much wider awareness amongst the skiing public that skiing by train is just less intensive than skiing by plane.
I led a panel at Birmingham last week, and I got one coming up at London, where we've been talking about, we've got the Eurostar snow train, and people can obviously book that individually as well. Travel skiers selling packages, Ingham's are selling packages, and then you have the indirect packages as well. But you're saying to me that people are ringing up and specifically asking for those train packages?
They are. I mean, that's always happened a little bit, but I think that there's definitely a 100% increase in that. It's more than twice the previous specific inquiries. I think there's also a keenness in the industry to just let people know also who don't know. So actually, when people call in and they're looking at booking a regular ski holiday, when there's a train option, my reservations team, for example, will let them know that. Whereas in the past, it's not necessarily something that's been on the radar of sort of mainstream holiday booking. Now, I think that the travel companies themselves feel a responsibility to make sure everyone's aware they can do it that way if they'd like to.
So you're actually saying that when people ring in, maybe they haven't asked about the train, that you're throwing up a train travel option for them?
Yeah, I mean, when people are specifically wanting to book something very specific, then obviously we help them get that booked. But quite often there's a train version of that. So quite often you can literally, whether you can choose your airplane from Manchester or Birmingham, or you can actually often also choose the train from London.
Therefore, you're actually promoting it actively, bringing it to their attention more than they come across it otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's part of our responsibility. If we want snow sports to continue to be successful in future, then it's part of our responsibility to make sure that that as many people as possible can do it as environmentally friendly as possible. We've always had the same approach with promoting local business as well. So we have a website with enormous traffic, and we list for free on our website all the local ski schools and masseurs and childcare and everyone in resort. That's also part of supporting those communities in resort.
Oh, I mean, that's really good to hear, Richard, but it doesn't surprise me, because actually long-term listeners may recall that Richard was on the podcast before. We actually did an electric vehicle special. It seems such a long time ago now, because I'd have to look it up. It was probably about 3 years ago, but you've driven out to the Alps in electric vehicles several times.
Yeah, we've been driving electric now for more than half a decade. I think we're on our third electric car. So we've kind of got used to the idea. I think, initially it felt like a novelty, and is it really hard, and range anxiety and that kind of thing. And I think just by driving electric all the time for half a decade with a family of four, we've found that it's not difficult at all. Actually, we drive to the south of France on holiday and to the Alps skiing, and it's really no big deal. I think when you drive electric, you drive a little bit differently. When you get up and go to drive to your ski trip, normally you get up, have your breakfast, and then off you go. And in an electric car, you probably get up and off you go. And then after 2 hours, have your breakfast while it plugs in for half an hour and things like that. But it's not actually taking any longer.
Yeah, that's right. And, I featured it a couple of times on the podcast previously, but I'll put a link to the special that we did before, because that might be interesting to people, and a couple of the others. And otherwise, thanks very much, Richard. And, if your team at SNO Holidays, keep pushing people onto the train, that is really good. And so I wish you all the best with that this winter.
Yeah, for sure. We also have a resource listing all the hotels that have got charging in the car park. So give us a nudge if you want to drive down there electric too.
So maybe I should put that in the show notes as well. That's brilliant, Richard. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Iain.
So that was really interesting to hear from Richard there. Firstly, that more and more people are asking about train travel, but to me, and perhaps even more importantly, that when they call up the team at SNO, they're being prompted to consider train travel. So that's great, and keep up the good work, Richard. Now, like Chemmy, Warren Smith, instructor to the stars, as he's often known, has been working with Protect Our Winters.
Last time I saw you, we were skiing together in Verbier on an amazing day.
We were shredding.
Thank you very much for that. Really interested, we were actually chatting earlier in the week about the Protect Our Winters Carbon Literacy course.
Yeah.
And you've started doing that now, right?
Education is obviously what we do in the industry, for ski technique. The education side that I was desperate for was to learn more factual information about what is actually going on. So I love to preach about Protect Our Winters, but my fear is always, if I was challenged about questions, to get it wrong and put the wrong message across, or could devalue that brand and Protect Our Winters, which is doing so much good work. So I've done 2 so far of the carbon literacy courses. They're 2 hours, 2 hours. I've got 2 more next week.
Yep.
And I would say I'd learned more than 50% of what I thought I knew.
Right,
so
okay.
It was at least half, but probably more, 60%. And that to me is it's equipped me with so much more information. And then the next 2 courses, I think it's the first educational course I've ever done where I'm actually excited about the Tuesday that's coming up. So it's really good. It's
cool. And is this part of, I think you're an ambassador for Protect Our Winters,
I'm
is that
doing
right?
it because I'm an ambassador, but a lot of the other people on the course were ski instructors doing a CPD or a continued
professional development, I think it's called. Yep.
And it was interesting, but the great thing is all of us that are doing this, I guess if we can speak to 50 more people in a bar or whatever, just chatting about this stuff, it's just spreading the word. And I think actually the carbon literacy course, it would be something that could become an interesting thing that people that appreciated the fact they're allowed to go skiing and the luxury of skiing, it almost feels wrong to not do a carbon literacy course. That would be something I think would be a great thing to aspire to for many skiers.
Cool. Well, people can find out more about it on the Protect Our Winters website. I'll put a link into the show notes. That's brilliant, Warren. Thanks very much.
Regular listeners will recall from episode 183 that Protect Our Winters recently launched their Send It for Climate campaign. I checked in with the marvellously named Dom Winter to see how it's going.
Okay, I'm with Dom Winter, who's head of programmes for Protect Our Winters. We just had a really interesting panel in there at LISTEX. And you are updating us on the Send It for Climate campaign, which Lindsay told us about in episode, I can't remember, but I'll put a link into the show notes. I just wondered how that's going.
Yeah, it's going really well so far, I think. So it's been running for about a month now, aside from just a little sneak preview we did at the UCI World Championships, where it went well, up in Scotland. Since we've been running it in lots of retail stores and through brand partners and so on. So they're in all Planks deliveries, it's in Patagonia stores, all Ellis Brigham stores. Check our website for the places you can pick them up. You can also do a virtual version. So there's physical postcards everywhere, there's virtual postcards everywhere. And yeah, really we're delivering it to the top political parties to ask for more ambition on climate change.
And I believe you've had quite a reasonable breakthrough recently, because you've had meetings at high level, right?
Yeah, definitely. So as a result of the kick-off of the campaign, we had a chance to meet with the Shadow Climate Minister, who is Kerry McCarthy. So we had a great meeting with her in Westminster, with Manon Carpenter, ex-downhill world champion, and a brand representative as well. And that meeting went really well in sort of introducing our concept of what we're doing and how. Kerry McCarthy went really well, and then towards the end she sort of as an offhand comment mentioned that she has always wanted to go mountain biking. So the plan is that we're going to take her mountain biking with Manon Carpenter at some point in the near future.
Cool, and that will introduce her a little bit more to the outdoor community, which is who you're representing, and get her to understand a little bit more about how strongly that community feels about it.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, if people aren't getting out there in the outdoors, it's harder to see that change. And showing the strength of feeling in this outdoor community. So yeah, let's take her mountain biking, and who knows, hopefully we'll be able to take a politician skiing soon too.
Right, that's brilliant. Thanks very much, Dom, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Iain.
So that's a really positive way to finish off a great week. It is going to be different in 2024 though, and I spoke to the MD of Raccoon Events, Natalie Davis, to find out more.
Great, well I'm delighted to be standing with Natalie Davis just now. You're the Managing Director of Raccoon Media. You organised all of the shows, and I think there is some big news in respect of the National Snow Week for next year, for 2024.
That's correct. So currently this week as it stands, we have a Birmingham show and a London show happening this weekend and next weekend. And these events, well, they're absolutely fantastic. We've sort of tested the market, and what we've decided for next year is to, rather than having two medium-sized events, we're going to have one phenomenal, absolutely mega event, and that's going to be in London next year. So National Snow Week will still consist of lots of fun, engaging pop-up events around the country, and then the London Snow Show will be the major event.
And that will be the culmination of it. So if we're talking about National Snow Week, will that London show be the end of that week?
Yes, that's correct.
And what are the dates? Do we know them already?
The dates are the 19th and 20th of October at London XL.
Right, okay, and then the week prior to that will be when we see things going on at snow domes and snow centres and stuff like that. Cool, I know it's very early, that's like a whole year away, so I guess we'll keep you tuned with whatever those activations are going to be.
Absolutely, and throughout the year we'll be doing lots of fun sort of updates on our website and through social media.
Cool. That's brilliant, Natalie, thanks very much.
No problem at all.
So it's definitely a shame there will only be one show in 2024 and that it will only be in London. But I fully get it's a commercial decision. The idea of National Snow Week was to make it simple for exhibitors to commit to 2 weekends, but many of them, they were only interested in being at London. I wouldn't say XL is the most charismatic venue in the world, but it's definitely easier to get to now the Elizabeth line has opened. And the London show, especially on the Saturday, had a real buzz to it. It felt busy, like a proper show. I'd say what they really miss and what I hope they can bring to it for next year is a real centrepiece. Listeners might remember the days of the shows at Olympia and Earl's Court and even Battersea, which featured riders throwing tricks on quarter pipes and big air kickers. And to me, it's something like that the show needs to capture the imagination, not just of the public, but specifically all those kids who could be looking up and wanting to emulate Britain's park and pipe stars. And of course, there was good entertainment at the shows. Chemmy, Ed, Scott Penman, Todd, they all did a great job with their interviews and keeping the stages busy. And I'm pretty confident people enjoyed the train sessions I led. And on the Sunday at both shows, the Ski Podcast live sessions were also well attended. I'd really like to thank Mike Richards, Katie Bamber, James Wilcox, Catherine Murphy and Tristan Kennedy for joining me on these panels. They weren't live as such, but if you'd like to find out about skiing in Japan, Turkey, Iraq, Pays de Gex, Uzbekistan and Abruzzo, take a look in the show notes and you'll see links to previous interviews I've done with these experts. Now, I enjoy all feedback about the show. I like to know what you think, especially about our features. So please do contact me on social at the Ski Podcast or by email theskipodcast@gmail.com. What was really great about the shows, though, was a chance to meet so many of our listeners IRL, as Tim Warwood put it. I'd like to thank Matt, Vix, Simon, Andrew, Mary and Ollie for coming up to say hello and for your kind words. We've also had more feedback since the last episode, some of it via the Snowheads website. Vix said, the Ski Podcast panel with Iain M. re-train travel to the slopes was very interesting. Wigman said, the Ski Podcast panel stuff was excellent and thought-provoking. Els P said, really enjoyed the train travel session. Tim sent me an email saying, I recently discovered the Ski Podcast and I've been binge listening. I'm impressed by the engaging content and the captivating discussions on all things skiing. So thank you very much for that, Tim. And Inside Morsey on Twitter said, we can't wait for the new season to kick off, but first there's a little matter of the National Snow Show and to meet someone who's not only got us through COVID, but all the months in between, Iain Martin from the Ski Podcast, a total legend. Well, that is very kind of you. And I don't know even if we did meet, because that looks like an alias, but I hope you enjoyed the show. Finally, Andrea Dalton said, just managed to catch up on the latest episode. Fab to hear from Al, that's Al Morgan. Always love listening what he has to say. And me as well, Andrea. So finally, if you like the Ski Podcast, there are 3 things you can do to help us. You can review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/the Ski Podcast. And thanks to David for that. And you can book your ski hire with Intersport Rent using the code Ski Podcast. There are now 188 episodes of the podcast, 142 were listened to in the last week, and that is amazing, but we have so much content, it just makes sense. So just go to the Ski Podcast, have a look around. We've covered so many different topics. I'm sure you can find one that's of interest to you. You can follow me at Skipedia and the podcast at the Ski Podcast. But for now, I'd like to thank Intersport for sponsoring the show. I'd like to thank all the very many people who contributed to this episode, as well as Babsy from the Mountain Trade Network and Stephen and Kate from Raccoon Events for giving me the opportunity to speak at the different events during National Snow Week. Finally, listener, thank you for joining us. And until next time, goodbye.